Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we are talking about Chapter 3 of the Tao Te Ching. This is the James Trapp translation, and Chapter 3 is all about removing desire. So, as we've said in the previous episodes, Taoism is a philosophy that involves removing things from your life. I'm not asking you to go to church on Sundays. I'm not asking you to worship a pantheon of gods or light ritualistic incense or burn sage or any of those kinds of practices. Taoism is at its root and at the philosophical version of Taoism. It's all about removing things and basically allowing the universe to take its course and flowing with the universe in the way that it's meant to happen. So, in that sense, you would think it would be pretty easy, but some of these things are very difficult to achieve. Desire. Desire is that feeling when you see somebody in a nice car cruising down the highway and you think to yourself, man, I wish I had that car. We don't realize when we think that it's kind of a corrupting thought. It's making us wish that the grass was greener on the other side. It's making us envious. It's making us feel like we are not good enough. And at the root of it, that's the problem that Taoism has with desire, is that it is a corruption of your true self, of who you should be. And at the end of the day, that nice car is going to deteriorate. And you and the guy who's driving that nice car aren't going to be on this planet for that long when you think of it. And so it doesn't make much sense to envy or to desire these things because we can't take anything with us. We are on this planet for a short amount of time. Whether you think we go somewhere after or not, we aren't here for long, and we aren't in this form for that long. It's just a very short blip of time, and then we're off to wherever you think we might go after that. And basically what Taoism is trying to say is the universe is this vastly infinite place, and to desire one thing or another doesn't make a whole lot of sense because we're just tourists. Everyone is a tourist. And so that's kind of at the root of this idea. Like I said before, in Taoism, we're trying to remove a lot of the obstacles that make our lives complex. We're trying to remove a lot of the extraneous circumstances or irrelevant details. Forming attachments in the world to material objects or to concepts or ideas tends not to be the smartest thing in a Taoist's view, even holding true to principles and ideas. Like if you met somebody who is staunchly politically left-wing, and they have all of these little principles that are super, super left-wing, and they believe in all the left-wing ideology, and they only listen to ideology coming from the left wing. All of their friends are from the left political spectrum. You've shut yourself out to the rest of the world. You're only taking in information that ascribes to your very narrow worldview. And you think, my worldview is right, everyone else is wrong. And a Taoist would say, like, well, what gives the left wing the moral authority on anything? There's probably concepts in the middle and on the right and not even on the spectrum, concepts that haven't even been discussed in the political left, center, right idea that you are omitting, that you are actively denying just because you are holding these beliefs so firmly, and I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm trying to, it's just an example. Don't come for me about, how the right wing is really bad or whatever. I'm not captured by either side. I get to choose what I believe and what I think of. But it's just an example of holding things as precious or sacred or true is really dangerous because, as we've talked about before, everything is connected. So things that are fake or false are connected to things that are true. There is no white without black. There is no up without down. There is no hot without cold. And so to deny one side of any of these polarities doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to read the verse and then we're going to get into it and see what we can learn. Removing desire. If talent is not glorified, people will not compete with one another. If the rare and precious are not coveted, people will not steal. If desirable objects are not wantonly displayed, people's hearts will not be in turmoil. When the enlightened man orders things, he bestows a mind empty of needless concerns, a stomach full of nourishing food. He ensures selfish resolve and strengthens the body. As a guiding principle, he removes the opportunities of willfulness and covetousness from the ordinary people, and withholds the opportunities for misusing their knowledge from the educated. In doing by not doing, there is nothing that cannot be controlled. So, a lot to unpack there. Basically, what it's talking about is if you glorify and if you uphold great wealth, people will start to steal. If you revere certain ideas or objects, people will come to hate those objects. The idea of if you glorify a talent or a skill that somebody has, resentment will follow. So what is the solution that Taoism offers us? Don't do those things. It's pretty simple. Don't revere the celebrity quarterback. Do not wish that you were that famous rapper. Don't desire the power that a political president has. We are all people. We are all travelers. We are not here for long. And to covet what someone else has doesn't make any sense. Even the Bible, in all of its infinite wisdom, talks about not coveting in its very specific way, because it talks about not coveting someone else's wife. But not coveting anything ever is the real solution. Because once you look over at someone else's lawn and you realize like, oh, the grass is greener over there, suddenly your lawn doesn't look so green. And that's the problem. The problem isn't that their lawn is greener. The problem is that you've noticed it and now you're envious. That's the actual problem, because the world is full of a billion different differences and nuances, and everyone is a bit different. We are all created slightly different, you know? My mom's an identical twin, and her twin are nothing alike in my head, you know, as growing up. You know, they have the exact same genome, exact same DNA, and I don't think they're at all alike in any way, shape, or form. I don't even think they look alike, and yet they have the exact same DNA. So clearly there is some big difference in how the world plays out. And so to covet what another person has only fuels your own resentment and insecurity. It doesn't do any good. And so by removing desire and by working every single day to remove that idea of, man, I wish I was that, you can live a really happy life. This is sort of starting to touch on the idea of non-attachment. It's just sort of knocking at the door of non-attachment. And what non-attachment is, it's exactly that idea of I'm not going to become fixated on possessions or things or even people, because none of these things are permanent, and neither am I. And the only thing that lasts forever is the Tao, is the universe, and it will change. The universe will never be the same. Every single second of every single day, the universe is changing in a trillion different ways. And the idea that I need to hold on to something and like, oh, I really love this watch. Oh my gosh, this watch is just the most important thing in my whole life. This watch will decay, so will I. This watch will not last. This watch is ever changing. And so to covet or desire things makes no sense in the Taoist point of view. I want to touch on a few little things in this thing. So if desirable objects are not wantonly displayed, people's hearts will not be in turmoil. Great idea. If if you're not actively showing, hey, look at all my shiny stuff, look at all my nice things, people aren't going to envy you. People aren't going to feel insecure about it. People aren't going to covet what you have, and you will live a better life. And at the same time, if you can learn to not covet what other people have, exact same effect, actual happiness, not having to deal with the difficulties of wanting what other people have. When an enlightened man orders things, he bestows a mind empty of needless concern. Basically, when you have become free of desire, when you realize, like, you know what, I have everything that I need in life, problems will arise and I will face them based on, you know, the skills and the experience that I have accumulated already, life becomes a lot less stressful. You don't have to worry so much about, you know, the rainy days or the difficulties, because you can feel confident in yourself that you have the tools you need to deal with it. And that is very powerful. The last line is obviously quite an interesting one. In doing by not doing, there is nothing that cannot be controlled. Again, we're going back to sort of the idea of not doing, non-action. Not making a decision is sometimes the best course of action. It's the best decision you could make. And essentially what it's saying is, when you try to control things, when you try and manipulate situations to your outcome or something, you might win. You might win and achieve what you wanted to achieve this time, but it's not going to work every time. And what happens when you don't win? What happens when you can't control a situation? What happens when an outcome that you didn't see coming happens? The trick is not to constantly be manipulating and trying to get better at these things and struggling through these things. The trick is to realize that the problem is within. The problem is, no, the fact that I want to manipulate, the fact that I feel like I need to manipulate it. Like, why do I feel this? Why do I feel the need to win this social situation? Why do I feel the need to drive that fast car? What exactly is driving me to these things? And it's the root of what we're talking about, which is desire. You have a desire to do it. Well, where does that desire come from? Well, it comes from the way society has taught us, the way our parents have taught us, the way our peers speak, looking cool on the internet, looking powerful to our friends, looking successful to our former classmates at a reunion. There's all these things that tie us to this world. And when the world changes, we're upset that it's changing. The trick is not to try to change with the world. The trick is not to try and keep the world exactly as it is in 1950. The trick is to realize that you can't control anything, and that you can allow everything to flow the way it should and be happy about it, and not feel an attachment to the way things are, or the way you want things to be. So that's what it is. It's the removal of desire and the attaining of higher enlightenment, which is a really conflated topic, which we will get into throughout this series. But essentially, we don't have control over the universe. We wouldn't want that control even if we did, because we'd probably end up becoming tyrants, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we're just here for the day, you know. We're not permanent. There's no point putting down your flag and claiming your land, because who are you? You're not going to be here in 100 years. Neither am I. I don't want to be. I'm very happy to be disappearing off of here, in 80 years, depending on good health and if I get hit by a bus. So that's essentially what I'm trying to talk about. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope it's not too difficult, and you're kind of starting to sort of see the nuances of Taoism and the idea of non-action. Not making a choice is probably the best choice you can make, because it's never going to go wrong. And we'll get into it a bit more, but what I'm saying does not mean stop trying, stop doing everything, just slowly turn into a pile of goo on your living room sofa. Taoism is not advocating for being lazy or doing nothing. Taoism is trying to get you to see the way the world is going to move, regardless of how you want it to or not, and accepting that and learning to appreciate life as it actually is. So that's where we're at. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your comments and questions about removing desire or desire and our crazy society and how all of our desires seem to be just getting worse and worse and worse. And I guess we'll see how it goes. And thank you guys for watching. And as always, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.